You know, when you see a massive skyscraper just punching through the clouds, or this incredible bridge that seems to just float across a river, you're seeing the final product, right? The steel, the glass, the concrete. But what about the parts that aren't there anymore? The secret structures that make it all happen and then just vanish. Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the unseen dangers that are lurking on pretty much every major construction site.
So, let's just jump right in with a question. Picture that huge building in your mind again, everything that goes into it. What do you think is its weakest, most fragile part? The huge glass windows? The deep foundations? Maybe that final steel beam at the very top? Go on, take a guess.
And the answer, well, it sounds a bit like a riddle, doesn't it? But it's a deadly serious reality in engineering. The most fragile part is the part that gets taken away. These are what we call temporary works, the unsung heroes of construction. And when they fail, and they do, the results are just unbelievably catastrophic.
Okay, so let's get into it. It's time to shine a light on this unseen world and figure out what exactly these mysterious, temporary works really are.
All right, so there's the official definition for you. But what does that actually mean out in the real world? Well, think of them as engineered solutions built to do a supercritical job for a short amount of time. They're holding up thousands of tons of wet concrete, or bracing the walls of a deep trench to stop it from caving in. They'll even cradle the face of an old historic building while a brand new one gets built right behind it. I love this one analogy. They're like the skeleton before the building can grow its own bones.
And you've absolutely seen these things your whole life. You just might not have known what they were called. Scaffolding? That's the obvious one we all recognize. Formwork? That's just the mold that gives wet concrete its shape. And then you get things like shoring and propping. Shoring usually supports stuff from the side, like the wall of an excavation, while props support things from below, like a heavy floor. They are the invisible, absolutely essential workhorses of any construction site.
And here's why we're talking about this. Because they get labeled as temporary, there's this huge psychological trap. It's easy to overlook them, maybe underdesign them or rush the job. But let me be crystal clear. The failure of these systems is a leading cause of death and injury in the construction industry year in and year out.
So you have to be asking, right, if the risk is so incredibly high, why do these critical systems keep on failing? Well, it's almost never just one single thing going wrong. Let's break down the anatomy of how these collapses usually happen.
It's almost always this tragic chain reaction, a cascade of errors, where one mistake just leads to another. It usually kicks off with a poor design, a plan that just wasn't strong enough for the real-world forces it was about to face. Then, that weakness gets worse because of inadequate supervision on site, where maybe people are under pressure, they take shortcuts, they don't follow the plan, and the final, fatal piece of the puzzle is often just dangerous overloading.
This slide really breaks it down perfectly. See, every single temporary structure has what's called an engineered capacity. That's a hard limit, a number calculated by engineers for how much weight it can safely take. Overloading is when people on site just ignore that limit. Think of it this way. You're standing on a kitchen chair. It's made for one person, right? Now imagine 2, then 3 more people trying to climb on with you. You know what's going to happen? It's not a mystery. It's just a matter of time. Okay, so that's the problem, and it is a really serious one. But here's the thing you need to take away from this. These failures are almost always preventable. They don't have to happen. So let's flip this around and look at the blueprint for safety. And what's amazing here is that the pillars of prevention are basically the mirror image of the causes of failure. You fight bad design with robust professional engineering. You fight poor supervision with diligent expert oversight. You fight overloading by being absolutely strict and relentless about load limits. And then you wrap all of that up in an unshakable culture of safety, where the pressure to go faster and save money never ever wins out over the need to do things the right way. But, among all those important pillars, there is one single activity that really acts as the ultimate safety net. It's the guardian that watches over the whole process, from the very beginning to the very end. And what is it? It's the constant, ongoing power of inspection.
The source material we're looking at today puts it so perfectly with this quote. It's simple, but it's one of the most important truths in construction. See, you can have the best design in the world on paper, but if a forklift accidentally bumps a critical support, or a bolt wasn't tightened properly, that beautiful design is suddenly worthless. Regular, methodical inspection is the only way to know, for sure, that the structure is safe right now.
So what are they looking for? Well, they're kind of like detectives hunting for clues. Is there any damage, any rust, any little defect? Are all the connections and bolts tight and exactly where they should be?
And does what's actually built match the design drawings perfectly? And maybe most importantly, are there any of those little telltale signs of stress, like a tiny bend in a beam or a hairline crack, that could signal a disaster is about to happen?
Because that's what this all comes down to, really. All the complex math, the endless checklists, the tough inspections, they all boil down to this one simple fundamental truth. This isn't about paperwork. It's about protecting human lives. Period.
So we want to leave you with this idea. Safety isn't some box you can just tick. It's not a product you can buy off a shelf and install. It is a constant, living process of being vigilant and of caring. And that brings us to the final question. On a busy, high-pressure, complex construction site, whose job is it to care? The answer really has to be everyone's.